the city of lights. You're the sunshine on my mind. We're burning through the city of lights.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new week of CLX Foundry Live. I'm your host, DJ Blue PDX, and today we've got, of course, our lead technical expert, it's Paul Steffens, and our he's our lead builder. It is Zach Killingsworth, and we are going to have some fun today. Now, first things first, let's talk about this beautiful box. It's right over the top of Zach's right shoulder, my left, your right. That is our giveaway PC. And if you want to find out more, all you've got to do is type exclamation giveaway in the chat and get your link going on, because we've only got a week left, 7 days on this giveaway. And there's so many different opportunities to jump in with it. First of all, you want to make sure that you get all the little things, do all the little follows and all the little jazz. Second, want to pay attention for codes. Everybody's like, code by code, what do you mean? Well, it's a thing that's alphanumeric. Now, you can find codes on our streams on Kick on Tuesdays, on Twitch on Thursdays. You can find codes on our socials. That's YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at CLX Gaming. You can find them on our Discord, of course, allegedly sometimes, discord.gg/CLX Gaming. And of course, you can find them on my streams. And I have some for the rest of the week. Thank you, Nicole, for being awesome. Also, Riz, because it's a charismatic opportunity to enjoy the efficacy of your own passionate ability to have fun. Now, with that being said, as a completely inappropriate definition, gentlemen, we've got a project for none other than our friend Derek and his stepson Eric. This is their build. What are we shoving in this bad boy?
All right, so Derek has configured another Horus off our website. So starting out, we've got the Ryzen 9 7900X3D for our processor. To cool that, we've got a CLX Quench 360 AIO in black, And for our motherboard, we've got the MSI B650 Tomahawk Wi-Fi. For our memory going in that, we've got 2 sticks of G.Skill, 32 gigabyte DDR5 5600 Trident Z5 in black, does have RGB, so a total of 64 gigs there. For our storage, we've got a Samsung 2 terabyte 980 Pro NVMe M.2 drive. And then for our video card, we've got an RTX 4080 Super. I'm pretty excited for that video card. I think we might have done one on the show before, but I haven't done too many Supers, so cool to see that. Obviously, we've got our NV5 in black here, 8 of our Game DS Aeolus M2 fans, and a 1000-watt gigabyte power supply to go with that.
You know, I sometimes get into a weird mood, and I'm finding I'm in that mood right now. So can I just say this about that 4080?
Say it.
It looks super duper. And now I want to hurt myself. All right, just kidding. I hate Barney. Thank you so much for... I don't have them on. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions about the things that you hear, please let us know. We would love to hear what you have to say. If you have questions about your build, this build, other builds, or just building in general, we got the answers. Well, I mean, I don't, they do. So with that started, we are going to be using the Horus NV5 case. This is a great case. I absolutely love it. Not only does it come with a separated power shroud for your power supply unit, it also has a seamless glass corner, and it's got some really helpful Velcro elements in the back to kind of aid with all of your cable management. Now, with that said, let's give a shot. I see we got Derek in the house. What up, dude? Eric and Derek are in the house. Eric's over here like, I'm going to watch my PC build. Yes, yes, you are. Oh, yeah. DDS Deadpool, thank you so much for that sub over on the purple side. I appreciate it. The Devil's Minion, Cosworth's in the house. Yes, yes. Damon is in. You thought there was a fun reason, like she was a big fan of Rizzoli and Isles? I mean, to be fair, that was a great show. Anybody else who knows that show, congratulations. But also, anybody who else recognizes this motherboard, let's go ahead and talk about it. This is the MSI Mag B650 Tomahawk Wi-Fi motherboard. And let's take a look at those ports, because connectivity is not something that this device is going to have issues with. Now, starting at the very top, we've got obviously our CMOS reset button way up at the top right there, or a flash BIOS button technically. You've got your HDMI and your display port down below there. You've also got your 2.5 gig LAN port, plus we've got 4 different USB 3 Type A 3.2 Gen 2s. Then we've got 2 USB 2s, and then down below there we've got 2 USB 2. We've got a USB 3.2 Gen 2, and then a USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2. Now, I know that's a lot of numbers and things, but what that means is that you can actually get 10 gigs up and 10 gigs down at the same time. That's a 20 gig transfer rate, which is wild for, like, especially for using any type of USB-C docks, etc. Below there, we've got our USB 3.2 Gen 1s. Those are all 5 gig ports, plus our Wi-Fi, plus our surround sound down below, including our optical out, which is incredible. So now let's take a look at this actual motherboard. It's got some great shielding on it. It's also got some really great thermal dispersion equipment. Now, why is it important that you have any, like, that you have thermal dispersion or thermal plating on a motherboard, Paul?
Yeah, so that just allows the heat to come off those surface mount components onto the heat sinks and then get taken away by the case fans.
Yes, which we've got a bunch of, and we'll get into that in just a few. Now, obviously, this is the second, apparently, of many that Derek has received, achieved, or designed with us, which is also fantastic. And for this build, Eric chose a very specific processor. Now, this is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing processors that I think AMD has ever built that I've ever seen. And it's going to be an AMD Ryzen 9 7900 X3. Paul, how would you describe X3D? Why is that so cool, and how does that benefit the performance of the machine?
Yeah, so the X means it's is unlocked and has also has multi-processing or multi-thread technology, and the 3D is referred to how the V cache is stored. So AMD has come out with a new way. You guys have probably seen their 3D processors. I believe it started with the 5800X when they started using 3D, and that allows them to stack memory on top of the CPU die, which gives you more surface area, which equates to having more cache.
Yes, and cache does not mean monetary cache, it's cache as in memory cache. All right, there we go. Now, the one thing I will notice is that AMD's processors are always very square in shape. They're very congruent.
Yep, on their new heat shields or heat sinks, we've got these kind of cool little grid cut out that I think looks pretty nice.
Agreed. And of course, I'm going to get to all of your questions as we can. Now, the one thing that you got to do if you're going to have a powerful processor, you've got to be able to cool it. Now, to cool it, we're going to be actually using a CLX Quench 360 closed loop liquid cooler. It's considered to be an AIO. Now, most of you who've been regular viewers of the show know exactly what I'm talking about, what Paul's about to describe. But Paul, for those who are brand new to the program, who might not know, what is an AIO? How does it work, and what does it do?
Yeah, so an AIO stands for all-in-one. That's what Zach's installing right here. So we've obviously got our radiator and our tubes going to our pump. So this comes out of the box with coolant in it. It will come with a few different sets of hardware. So you just want to make sure you grab the right set that matches your motherboard socket. Once you do that, it's pretty easy to install. You can see we've almost got it all the way in. We'll just plug in our pump header and then we'll be good to go. So great way to cool your processor, and it's really easy to install as well.
Absolutely agreed. Good answer. And of course, that bracket went in super fast, and now we've got Zach running the power cord for the, I would say, the lit version of this. So how is this different from our previous CLX Quench thirst coolers?
So this is just a revised pump. This is the non-lit version. So we just have the one cable coming off to power it, but it'll be a little bit more efficient and just has kind of a more updated looking cap on there.
Got it. Excellent. We do have a great question coming in from, by the way, residents over on the TikTok side. Thank you. I'm always a little bit nuts. Now, DDS Deadpool asked a really great question. What would you guys recommend for running high frame rate for first-person shooters?
That's a good question. So the first thing is it depends on what resolution you're wanting to play at. If you're wanting to play high frame rate on 1080, you can get away with a pretty entry-level mid-tier machine to run high FPS. Once you start getting into 2K and 4K and on up, that's when you want something, between mid-tier and high-end, depending on what you're playing and what frame rate you're trying to achieve.
I definitely lost you on the Discord call, but I'm assuming everything you said is correct, because it always is. Up next, speaking of things that we need to hear, let's hear that click, because we're about to put in our RAM. This is two 32 gig sticks of DDR5 5600 for a total of 64 gigs of memory. Now, of course, we're plugging this into the 2 and 4. Who wants to conversate about why we go 2 and 4 instead of 1 and 2?
Yeah, so 2 and 4 is what the motherboard manual recommends. So if you ever are installing RAM and you're not filling up all the slots, you definitely want to consult your motherboard manual. Make sure you're using the right slots. Typically on boards with 4 slots like this one, you're always going to use 2 and 4. But if you're ever unsure, just look at your motherboard manual.
I do know we got a question coming in from Dadzilla. What up, Dad? How you doing? Big Daddy Z says Nike Air Monarchs or New Balance 806s. I'm going to be very honest. I have a straight up answer for that. New Balance any day of the week and twice on Sundays. They last forever, and they're very, very well done. I've had several pairs. Speaking of pairs, sometimes you don't need to get things that are 2. You just need to get things that are 1. And all we've got for our storage system is 2 terabytes. It's 2,000 gigs on a Samsung 980 Pro NVMe M.2 that plugs right into the board. How does this help with data transfer speeds and just efficiency of your ability to load games?
Yes, this is a really fast drive. It's obviously NVMe and it's the 980 Pro, so it's going to have really good read and write speeds. We're obviously got one drive on here, so our operating system and everything else is going to be on the same drive, so we're going to boot up very fast, and any games that are loaded onto this are going to play really well, no load screens or anything like that.
I do want to jump back to a comment that you made about resolution, I think is what you said. I thought I heard it correctly when it came to first person shooters, because I want to jump back onto that one. So Deadpool, the one thing I will say about that is it also is based on what the FPS that you're playing is optimized for. And I only found this out, what was like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I think. So I didn't understand why optimization was important. I was running because I assumed that lower resolution I would get higher FPS, which 90% of the time is accurate. But I was really hustling to get 130 to 140 FPS on for Rainbow Six Siege at 1080. I would jump up to 1440, and it got a little worse until somebody said, "Stop playing it at weird. Just put it at 4K." Throw it up on Ultra. There you go. I put it at 4K, threw all the settings on Ultra. And even though I have a 1440p monitor, I've got Windows compressing it. I'm pulling 250 to 380 FPS consistently every time. The game is smooth. It's very different, though, if I'm going to be playing like Warzone or, I'm playing Dying Light. Again, different designs, different settings. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind when you're doing that. Yeah, Ivory's, yeah, right? That's why we love our New Balances. Cosworth, I'm going to get a new monitor when I'm back up and running, looking at my 1440. My question is OLED or no? Good question.
I mean, it's really up to how much you want to spend. OLED obviously looks great. So I think the biggest thing there is going 1440, obviously at 144 hertz or higher. Those are the two biggest things for me, and then the rest is all icing on the cake. So.
Jumping over to our green side, Clinton 12. Hi, welcome in. Glad to have you here. Says, I have a question. I have a rig that is a year-old Ryzen 7 5800 on an MSI X570 motherboard with a 3080. It started black screening and says no input on monitor. Monitor fans are still running, but I've got no display. I can shut it down and it will work for a couple of hours or minutes. It usually does it every time I try to open up a game. I replaced the RAM, still doing it. Do you all have anywhere that I could start to figure out what's wrong with this PC? There's no lights on the motherboard when it happens.
So the first thing that comes to mind with that issue is an overheating problem. Now that could be with your video card or your processor. Typically when things get too hot, this technology is smart enough to know, hey, if I keep going, I'm gonna break, so I'm just gonna shut down completely. So I feel like that's what's happening. Now obviously I know you said your fans are still spinning. Sometimes that can be happening where it just kind of puts your system to sleep as opposed to completely shutting it down. So the first thing I would look at, is your temperatures. Maybe game on it until it does that, and then just take a side panel off and, put your hand in there. Don't necessarily touch anything, but see if it's really hot. You can touch the back plate of your video card, and it shouldn't be like too hot to touch. If it is, you might have an issue there.
And I'm going to echo that because my last gaming PC was horribly undervented. It wasn't enough, and it was a 9900K, and it had a 120 push pull. It was just not worth it. So I had to actually vent the side, so it was a glass side. So I took the knobbies off the top and just kind of let it lean out, and that way the fans kept cooling. But it got to the point where my tubes were so hot that I had to slow down the performance because it was such a pain. So yeah, definitely consider that. Take a look at those things and see how that works out. And on Thursday, let us know how that affected it. Over back on the purple side, we have got Deadpool mentions, I play a lot of Call of Duty and I'm planning on playing Helldivers 2 and Rainbow Six on my and my PC keeps crashing. Yeah, definitely take a look at that. That's an excellent question. Why do you think it would keep crashing, Paul?
So if it's like an issue where everything's going fine, you're doing your Excel spreadsheets and all that good stuff that ain't that demanding, and then you hop on a game to play and it starts powering up your machine, everything starts running and then it shuts down. Typically that's because it got hot. And now if you let it sit for a couple hours and it turns back on just like nothing's wrong, that's because it's had enough time to cool off. So that's the first thing that I go to before I think of like an actual hardware failure on some end.
You can't even run Discord while you game? All right, I'm going to ask a question here that I think that, because back when I worked for Adobe, this was an issue often. How many antivirus programs do you have on your computer? Is it just Windows Defender, or do you have something like you just have Windows Defender? Okay, good. That's excellent. That's a great answer.
Does Discord run fine when you're not gaming?
Good question. Oh, it says, yeah, it works fine when he's not gaming. All right, well.
Let's see. Okay, so this is might be a little bit different issue. It just crashes while you're gaming. Now, if you want to look at, if you've got like a separate monitor, you can pull up a hardware monitor that will show temperatures. You could look at overheating. I'm not sure if that's the exact issue you're having, if it's just straight crashing. But that would be at least a good way to eliminate that, and then you can move on to other steps.
And real quick, jumping back over to the TikTok side, Nathan says 64 gigs of RAM. Wow, 32 gigs is enough. I'll be honest, depending on what you're doing, it may be enough, but sometimes it's not. I have 64 gigs in mine, but I have a reason, because I also process music and produce and organize things. So I need that 64 gigs to make sure that everything runs smoothly without an issue. All right, now we do see we've got the case up here. We've got that loaded and mounted. We're getting everything blocked back in. I know we had a couple other questions coming through here. What is the best upgrade for high performance GTA 5? My friend currently is running it off of a GT 710 and an i3. That's brave.
Yeah, so I mean, your processor and video card both need upgraded for that. If you can only do one at the moment, I would go with a video card. That game's going to be a little bit more GPU intensive than CPU, although it is pretty intense on both. But I would definitely go with, if you can only do one, upgrade that video card.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, right now my RAM isn't lighting up because I forgot to turn on Armor Crate because I'm a dummy. Jumping back over there, Sniper Skills mentions, got my PC from you guys about a year ago and no problems at all. GG, good to hear. Thanks for the good quality PC. You are absolutely welcome. Derek and Eric mentioned they are going to be putting another M.2 in here, which is fantastic. Can't wait to see what you guys choose. Also, can't wait to see all of your setups look. Derek does ask a question. Can you guys sign the case?
Oh, yeah, we for sure can. Once we're done with this build, and when Zach's going to the after party, I'll grab the marker and we'll come sign it. That would be sick. Where should we sign it at? Now we've got some time to think about it now while we're doing the build. We could do it on the back here, like in this little area, or on the door as well. I don't know.
Or even on the power shroud.
Yeah, or on the power shroud. If you've got a preference, let us know. If not, we'll find a spot that looks good.
Let's see. And yes, there's something about an Instagram story in there. Definitely check that out. I have a 360 AIO on it, and the processor says it's 40C to 50C. The graphics card top of it is super hot, almost too hot to touch. Yeah. Ooh, so that explains enough.
40C to 50C on a processor or a GPU is totally fine. It's nothing to worry about. But that graphics card, they get hot, but they shouldn't be so hot to touch. They definitely can be. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's broken, but that's definitely our issue. I would go ahead and unplug the power connectors that are coming to it, pull it out of the system, and just put it right back in. You know, maybe look at the fans, make sure there isn't any like dust bunny clogging up the fans or anything. But just taking it out, putting it back in, plugging the power back in, and giving it another shot before we want to get like too far down the rabbit hole.
And let's see here. L3ZH says my PC only has 8 gigs of RAM. Well, listen, that's where I started at. I mean, actually, that's a lie. I first started at 512 of RAM. And I thought I was a pimp.
512 gigs?
It's great. Yeah. No, 512 megs. 512 megs of RAM, and I thought I was a pimp. It was ridiculous.
8 was 16 is becoming the new standard. 8 still, I mean, I'm sure you're still gaming on yours with 8 and it's going fine. So you're not quite at the point where you have to, but the next one you build will probably have more than 8.
Yeah, definitely. Back in the early 90s, actually, correct. Yes. Like right about the time that it was right before Windows 95 came out. God, I'm old. James Olcott over on the red side. Hello. Nice. Okay. And FLC. I almost wanted to say FLC Films, and I was like, that's not it. FLC JMS. His PC is DDR3, and he's running good games with good GPU packs. All right, well that's cool.
Respect.
Yeah. Okay, now we're getting this over here. And so we're putting a fan on a frame. Now, these frames serve for a couple different great options for functionality. Zach, walk us through that.
Yes, so a couple cases, certain ones will have removable fan trays. Makes it a lot easier to attach and manage our fan cables. Makes it a lot easier to not have to deal with having extra cables when we don't need them.
Yes. My school is running the BBC microcomputers with 8 megs of RAM. Oh, yes.
8 megs?
I just remember the computers that we had back in middle school, which would have been, God, in the 80s. That were monochrome screens. You had to learn it. You had to type code to go to the C prompt and then type in the name of the OregonTrail.exe. And then see how long you survived. The amount of times that whatever my, group trooper family died of dysentery was hilarious. I mean, dysentery is not a funny, joking matter, but I mean to tell you what, man, we starved, we went down too many hills and broke our wagon wheels and just one thing after another, and all I could think of was, and yet, here we are.
I think my favorite part of Oregon Trail was the hunting. I just kill every animal I could. You got 2,000 pounds of meat on this hunt. Like, sweet. And then it all spoils.
Right.
And you're like, whoops.
Yeah.
Those buffalo
it spoils, and then you're overweight, so your wagon wheels start to bust, and then you're trying to fix that. Oh, you had to go chop a tree, process it, cut it, frame it, and it's like, who has time for that? Call an Uber.
The scariest decision was when you got to the river crossing, and it's like, do you want to pay a ferry, or do you just want to send the wagon through? What do you do? And
right? Yeah. You can try going through it.
Sorry, Zach. I don't mean to be holding on to these.
The amount of time, and I think it was in 4th grade. Yeah, it was in 4th grade that we played that constantly all year long in our history class. And it wasn't history, it was, social sciences or whatever it was called. So it wasn't social media because that didn't exist. But I think we played it until somebody made it through to the end, and then we'd start over again. And then you weren't allowed to make the same choices twice. So you had to keep it all logged, and then every time you came to do a choice, you had to make a different choice. And oh my Lord. It was ridiculous. We had a text game where the one bad end I remember was eaten by the dark elevator. Dark elves. Got it. I was like, the dark elevator. Like, did you get chewed by the doors? I am so confused right now. Architect over there on the TikTok side. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. Glad to have you here. Yeah, they and Damon, they did. They remade Oregon Trail. I actually have it. I actually own that game on, I think it was on Steam. Yeah. Now that could be hilarious to play on stream. I don't know. Maybe that's what maybe that's what we should play today on stream. Deadpool says, what would you guys recommend for running triple monitors? Do you mean like which monitors, or are you talking about which graphics card?
So if you're talking about graphics card, pretty much every graphics card is capable of running a ton of monitors. What you want to look at there is that the graphics card has all the video outputs that you need for your monitors. So nowadays most video cards are coming with 3 DisplayPort and 1 HDMI. So you should be fine on 3 monitors, but it's definitely something you want to look at just to make sure you're set up.
Yeah, definitely.
I cut them. Okay. They're just
because now
I'm gonna rip them off.
Oh, it is, you know what? I don't own it actually. Apparently, what was I? Why didn't I buy this? Oh, I didn't buy it because it's $30 for this basic game. Like,
Steal.
no. Yeah, no. Something. Speaking of steals, let's talk about all the things that are super duper. It's the GeForce 4080 by PNY. Also, Deadpool, by the way, so when it comes to, if you're going to be using if you have a dual PC system, so I have a dual PC setup. It is a streaming PC down here and my gaming PC back here. My streaming PC, I run 3 monitors off of, and that is a 1070. Not super hard, but I'm also not gaming on any of them. Now, if you have a single PC system where you want to have multiple monitors, one obviously is going to be your primary for gaming. The rest are going to be like, so for me, I have my gaming monitor here, I have the chat monitor, and then I have my stream monitor, and then I have my production monitor. So if you're going to plug all 4 of those in, yeah, then you're going to run into a little more of a throughput issue. But you're running solo PC, so there we go. Yeah, there you go. Now, the upside is a 4080 Super is going to be able to handle so much of that because it's pretty awesome. Paul, walk us through what is so amazing about this thing, aside from the fact that the design looks super clean.
Yeah, so the 4080 Super is obviously relatively new when it came out. This is just a great performing video card. This is definitely in the high-end category. Going to be able to play everything you want it to at a good frame rate and good resolution.
Jacob Hutchinson mentions, I love the custom Nickelodeon paint job that y'all did on one of the rigs a few years ago at DreamHack. Wow, I don't remember that.
I'm looking
That's
at
awesome.
it right now, actually.
I literally was.
Oh, what? Really?
It's literally right. It's out
and
outside
bring one
our
of those
studio
in
right
here.
now. Here, Jason's gonna grab it, man.
I was so upset. My after
Oh,
party,
heck yeah.
my after party
Heck
bill
yeah.
got taken away.
All right.
That was one of the few 90s themes we did?
All right,
Yeah.
we're instead of bringing
All right,
full
let's
case,
talk about
we're
the-
going to just grab the front paneling because it's way easier to come. We have all of our 90s themed cases on display right now out in our little
That's so cool.
front shop area. So it's funny that you bring that up. We're looking at it right now. Oh, he's grabbing the Jurassic Park one too. We
Well,
gotta
and
hide the
Cage
third one.
Port
Don't
says,
take that home.
I need that 4080 in my build. So I'll say this about cards. Like, again, and I'm as I mentioned, I'm getting massively rad frames on my games, and it's incredible. And I have a 3090 OC, and I can't say it's just a look at that. That's sweet. Oh my gosh. Ah! Look at the CLX Gaming Jurassic Park one.
And that's it.
That is wild. I dig it. I dig it so much. That's incredible.
Very good. See, look at that. There's a Surge one too, but I'm going to hide that one somewhere so I can take it home. Yeah, these are our custom paint right here. So if y'all like these designs, we can do them.
That's cool. Jared Burnett asks, is that an i7? No, this is a Ryzen 9 7900X3D that we've got in this build. And Little Bean, are you all giving this away? Absolutely not. This is going to be for our friend Eric, who is the son of our friend Derek. who has been all about CLX PCs for some time now. So this is going to be going to Derek's son, Eric. Which, by the way, Eric said you guys can set it anywhere. I would just say do it on the shroud, because then it's right there.
Shroud might be a good spot. Have it nice and visible.
Use a silver marker. Yeah. Derek mentions, got an idea for you, a Mountain Dew build. Well, that would definitely take some licensing and conversations with the marketing team, but that actually would be cool. Could you imagine doing one for the X Games, the Mountain Dew X Games?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but
that would be
you're
wild.
Not going far enough. It's an open loop,
Yep.
and you've got Code Red in it.
And Baja Blast.
And the Baja Blast. That would be the ultimate Mountain Dew build right there.
All right. Now we got
Oh my
Prince
gosh.
and Surge right here.
What?
See, this one's going to be mine.
Those look so good.
They do.
Those look so good.
The original gamer fuel Surge.
Right?
I thought that was tank. Well, no, that's astronaut.
That's for serious stuff.
Yeah.
Tang.
Tang.
No monkeying around.
You have, let's see here. Yeah, right? So one on the right. I have a 4070 Super, but the 4080 would just sit nicer in there. Well, I mean, technically, possibly, probably, perhaps. Cosworth asks up there for a second. Running FPS games on a triple monitor, I would recommend a 4080. Yes. Yeah. That would allow you to still have the, I would say, the throughput, but the added resources to be able to manage those other three. So here's a question, Paul. Mm-hmm. Can you have monitors at different resolutions, or does everything have to be the same resolution?
Yeah, you can have them at different resolutions. So like my gaming monitor is a 2K 144 hertz, then my side monitor is just like a regular 24-inch 1080 system. So
Tom Udall mentions, have some unopened Halo 3 branded gamer fuel in my room. Plan to drink it one last time on my deathbed. So it's funny when back when I was with Halo, we have the 343 museum up on the first floor of our offices there, and they have one specific case and shelf dedicated to all of the Halo themed drinks that have ever existed.
Nice.
Ever existed.
For
And
sample?
most of them are most of them are unopened cans.
That's
but
not a cool.
there were a couple, however, that after about 10
They
years
blew up.
started to eat through the aluminum.
Oh.
So they had to drill the bottom and drain them. They're like, so it still looks unopened, but good Lord. Yeah. Is there a difference between a mid tower and micro tower? Good question, Paul.
Yeah, so yes, there is. A mid tower, the naming there can be a little bit confusing if you're not familiar with it, but basically what that's talking about is the form factor of the case, which is the size essentially. So a mid tower is anything like what we're building right here. The mid tower is the biggest range, so it can be something like this or something way bigger, can still be considered a mid tower, and then you obviously have full tower at the high end, which are like just crazy big, and a micro tower is going to be smaller. So typically for a mid tower build, it's going to have an ATX motherboard, full size motherboard like the one we're using here, and for a micro tower typically you're going to have an MATX motherboard, which is a little bit smaller. Now there are some micro towers that can fit full ATX boards and vice versa, but yeah, that's what that is.
James Alcott on the red side mentions, my first computer had a 450 meg CPU and a 512 megs of memory. So you had the 486 processor then? Because I remember we started out with the 386, then my dad upgraded it to a 486 for work. And of course it was like, oh, you have a 486 processor. Urgh. That's wild. Up over on the Facebook side, it says, Jared Barrett says, I have a Ryzen 5. Jacob Hutchinson with the whole Baja Blast. Yeah, buddy. Says I have a Ryzen 5 and I play stream and use two monitors. I don't know how I do it. It's not the best, but my PC does handle it. Derek mentions I run three monitors, 144 at 4K, a 1440 at 280, and a 1080 at 60. Interesting. James Brown, I have a 4070 with an i5 14600. What monitor would you recommend for 1440p?
So 1440p, I mean, there's so many good options out there right now. I don't want to give you just one specific brand and then leave out the rest. But what you want to look for there is your refresh rate. So go with 144 hertz or higher. I think 144 hertz is honestly getting a little old now. It's what I'm using. I think a lot of stuff is 165 or more. But anything 144 or better on the refresh rate at 1440p is what you want. The higher the better, and then the fancier panels on the screens, OLEDs, all that good stuff is what you can look at later. But refresh rate 144 or better, and then you've already got your resolution 1440p. So those are the two biggest things. The rest is kind of personal preference.
I will say that when I finally have to replace the Samsung, my production monitor, this is going to sound stupid, but for a streaming monitor, I would really like to have this one be touchscreen. So instead of having to use my mouse constantly, I can just touch things on the screen and like jump into voice channels, change settings without having to use the mouse, because I think that would just be easier for me. Or more time efficient, technically. Derek mentions that he's aiming for about 200 FPS at 1440 in Warzone with this build. At least that was the goal for Eric.
Oh yeah, you'll be hitting
This'll
that
do that.
solid.
Let's see here now. Here's one that I'm definitely be familiar with since I used to work for them. Zlenzy Media says, when I'm rendering in Adobe Premiere, my computer GPU numbers jump to about 68 to 70. Is there ACES software that I don't need running in the background? Well, here's my first question for you. When it comes to Adobe Premiere, it is very resource intensive. So my question is, what do you say, 68 to 70? You're talking about 68 to 70 degrees or 68 to 70%? Also, how much RAM do you have and what processor do you have? Base just mentioned, I just snagged the AW3225QF. My wallet has cried. I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what that number means, but it sounds expensive.
I know it's going to be a 32 inch, but yeah, the model numbers get pretty wild.
Okay, so Zlenzy, 32 gigs is, you really need to bring down the priority on the process, in the actual process of it. For anything Premiere, I always recommend, especially now, getting at least a minimum of 64 for Premiere. If you want a really smooth, error-free experience, 128 is what I would recommend. The other thing that you've got to recommend, and we're going to jump back over to the build right now, it's because what you just saw Zach playing with there is not an actual slide rule. That's what we call what do we call it?
An anti-sag bracket.
What is an anti-sag bracket and how does it work?
So what an anti-sag bracket does is supports the video card on, if you're looking at the screen right now, it supports the video card on the top side, because all the support that your video card's getting is down here at the bottom where Zach screwed it in. You can't really see, but right here are these supports. So when you get a big video card like this, you want to have some support on that other end so it doesn't sag over time and cause damage to the card or the motherboard. So that's what we're installing here. Now this case comes with that one you saw Zach using, but this card is too much of a thick boy, so we are going to be installing one of these other ones that we have. It's still going to mount to our motherboard and support it just fine. It's just going to be a little bit different.
Real quick, we have a question coming in. First of all, I want to jump back up to something Bud mentioned a little bit ago. Bud, over on TikTok, 3 months with my PC from you guys, and I'm loving it still. Thank you again. Absolutely, you're welcome. And then you realize you had a remote for it, right? You find that little box, you're like, oh, that's how this works. Jared mentions, doesn't an Elgato work like that? Just a touch of a button. Here's the problem with that, Jared. You have to program everything. There's multiple layers, as opposed to, like, if I want to jump into my settings, or I want to jump into turning on my virtual camera or off my virtual camera real fast, or select something for properties, you can't do that with a Stream Deck. Now, there's also the AverMedia AX310. There's also the Beacon Mix Create. There's a lot of different things that give you options like that. But I was so used, because when I was working on Microsoft, we had everything was the Surface machines. So I could just drop, pop, touch, and go, which I got used to, and I'm still just like, the Samsung doesn't have it. So, yeah.
Pop it off and drop it.
Yep. I'm currently using a Technics EH790 stereo for sound quality, but is there a current equivalent that I should be looking at? Is that as headphones or as a sound card? Are you guys familiar?
I am not. What was it?
It is a, hold on, it's a Technics EH790. Okay, now I'm going to look that up just because I'm curious. EH790. You mean the turntable?
That's a weird looking computer.
Oh, it's gonna be like, right? That is
really
very different. Oh yeah, we definitely talked about that. The currently is my Technics is for stereo for sound quality. So I'm because the EH. Okay, I thought the EH hi-fi separate. Okay, got it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we got the hi-fi receiver. It depends on what you're trying to go for. I mean, I've definitely got my PC hooked up to an insane sound system down here, but
Look at that. We ain't got no sag.
and also speaking of receivers, guess what got received over on the green side? It is a code. It's ARCD-FRGR, which stands for real, get real. Foxtrot Romeo Golf Romeo. That is your code worth 100 extra entries, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I think it's 100 extra entries. Yes, it is for 100 extra entries into the giveaway, which you've only got 1 week left. And then, of course, we will come up with a brand new winner next week. We're so excited to find out who that is. And yeah, it's Lindsay Media. Just to go back and for that, the only reason I can say that is because I literally helped write. I wrote the training curriculum for our technical support team at Adobe Software Systems back in like 05, and they're still using it. But it's always been take whatever the average is and double it, because Premiere likes to suck up all of the RAM and then choke itself. I'm just
boy.
why? Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. There, and as our production team mentioned, there's no more virtual RAM within the Adobe systems as they used to be. They used to be able to isolate certain amount of RAM on your, from your system on your hard drive and use that as a paging or cache file. But that's not a thing anymore. So definitely go with some more of the RAMs. And no, you can't download RAM. You have to buy it. Speaking of things that you can buy, let's talk about this beautiful little power supply that we're shoving in here. This is actually really cool. I like it. This is a 1,000 watt gigabyte UD1000 GM 80 plus gold. So, Paul, talk about this power supply real fast.
Yeah, so this is a fully modular power supply. So you can see we got our cables out of the box and picked out for the build. Basically, with these fully modular power supplies, there's no cables that come pre-installed. So you get a cable bag that comes with it, and then you figure out what you need for your build. For this one, we only needed really 4 cables to complete this. So really nice. This is what's nice about the modular power supplies. You don't have a whole bunch of cables you're trying to find places to tuck in that you're not using and all that. So
yeah. Oh, Cosworth mentions, I like the quality and clarity of sound from the hi-fi. Yeah, especially if you've got analog, because man, there's something about as a DJ and as an audiophile, there's something about analog inputs that just feel more hands-on. Now, that being said, to use the optical output of most things, I need to buy a separate DTS decoder. That is correct. Honestly, when it comes to that, that's a question I might actually ask Jason. Because Jason's very smart about this stuff. Super smart about this stuff. So you guys can't hear him, but I'm talking like our production. The guy who directs the entire show is Jason. Usually see him at events with the camera. So, Jason, if when it comes to an analog audio hi-fi system, right, to use the optical output of most things, like Xboxes or your motherboard, you need to buy a separate DTS decoder in order to feed it into that Technics receiver. If it has an optics. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So definitely take a look for an analog transfer device that should have an IR or optical input on it, and then it comes out probably with RCA or unless you're getting a device that's actually be running straight. I can't imagine it would run straight speaker wire, but it might be. It'll probably RCA's or 1/4 inch on there. Yeah. Oh, like a 3.5. Yeah. Yeah, it'll pass through to your receiver. So definitely check on that one, Cosworth. Let me know if you need help looking around for things, because I'll definitely help you with that. That's those kind of little things like, ooh. I love geeking out. It's fun. Derek mentions the anti-sag bracket is really nice. I love anti-sag brackets, and they definitely help with keeping things from breaking. Derek also mentions that GPU looks the same size as a 4090. Paul?
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's a big GPU, that's for sure.
Cosworth, yeah, that'll be a fun little project for us to run on the side. Definitely hit me up in DMs on Discord. I'll see what I can come up with and find for you. You like the bobblehead in the background? I mean, I have a name. Oh, that bobblehead. Got it. Never mind. Thought you were talking about me. But yes, I was just like, I've never been described as a bobblehead, but I can see the resemblance. Oh my goodness. Listen. Listen, Linda. Mitch, welcome in over on the Facebook side. Good job, dude. I love building PCs myself. Absolutely. And when you see the level of expertise going into this, the damn cable management, that's the word I was looking for. It's really fun. DJ to 4090 soon. Gaming Create, I have a lot of things to accomplish, and I don't feel like I'll be able to afford a white ROG Strix 4090 anytime in the near future. But with that said, this 3090 is still bad. Look at, I was able to say it and bleep myself.
He's got a 3090. He's going to be solid.
Yeah. But, yeah, what I probably will do, since this is definitely banging it out right now, is wait until the 50 series come out, and then I'll go from a 30 to a 50. But look at that. First of all, let's talk about how beautiful this tie-up is on the back. Zach is a perfectionist of ridiculous proportions. Geez, that looks good.
Thank you.
We got our fans in. Now, we do have it's 4 in and 4 out on this device. We've got our back 3 intake fans, input fans, intake fans, and then our lower intake fan. And then on the top, we've got 3 exhaust fans attached to your radiator. And then we've got our final one that exhausts straight out the back. Now, this creates what is almost a neutral pressure. Paul, how does that work?
Yeah, so if you've built PCs before, you might have heard people calling their systems positive pressure or negative pressure. And what that refers to is the way air is coming in and out. So if you have more air coming into your PC than you do leaving, that is a positive pressure system, and then vice versa. So more air leaving than coming in, you've got a negative pressure. And if you're designing your machine, you definitely want it to be at least slightly positive, because what that will do is allow the air to come in through all the proper intake channels, get filtered correctly, and everything will go smooth. If you have it set up where you have more air leaving, that's going to create a vacuum inside your machine. It'll cool it fine. It's not going to cause, your machine to shut down or anything. But when there's a vacuum inside of there, it's going to suck in dust and pet hair and all that good stuff through all these little cracks and crevices. So you don't want that.
Over on the Facebook side, Squeaky Clean, he builds them fast as you know what. Yes, he does. Well, these guys are experts. They've been doing this for a very, very long time. It always amazes me, but it's also incredible. Derek brings up talking about our customer service, and you're absolutely right. It's incredible. One thing I'd like to point out is CLX has great customer service. My front blast panel came chipped, and they shipped out a replacement ASAP. That is awesome to hear. Now, while they're getting these panels put together, I'd love to take you and show you how you can get your hands on an incredible CLX PC today. Over at clxgaming.com, we make it as easy as possible to try and get to just get your PC built in the exact way you want it, so that it not only performs to your expectations, but it meets all of your computing needs. Now, whether you're going to be building your own or otherwise, we have tons of options. Full-size towers, extreme towers, small towers, ITX towers, which are technically more like a little lunchbox. And it's all available right here. You get to choose all of your options in there. And we have a perfectly sound conflict resolution system, which means in the event that you end up choosing, let's say, a DDR5 motherboard, and then you chose DDR4 RAM, well, the system's going to go from a green to a yellow, and it's going to say, all right, hang on, you can't do that. If you want a DDR5 board and use this board, you have to choose one of these RAMs, or if you're really set on this DDR4 RAM, then you'll need to choose one of these DDR4 motherboards. Once that happens and you select the right option to solve the problem, the conflict goes from yellow back to green, and then you can continue on with it. We have tons of different options here available for your PC, including overclocking. You can overclock your CPU, your GPU. You can even overclock both of them. You can do open loop, closed loop. We've got tons of features. You want to add extra hard drives, you want to add cable mods, we got those too. And the best thing is that we've also got an accessories page that basically turns us into a one-shop stopping center. It's one-shop stopping center? GG, DJ, get good. A one-stop shopping center, whether you're looking for nice little windbreakers, hoodies, and CLX branded t-shirts to come say hi to us at when you are at cons. We've got those. We've got routers. We've got mics. We've got headsets. We've got streaming gear. We've got beacon mics, beacon mix creates. We've got capture cards. We have got pretty much everything you can imagine. We even have gaming chairs. We got monitors. We got a bunch of things. So everything you might need is right here. Now, some people might find it a little bit daunting to build their own machine. So if you head on over to our ready to ship section, we actually have pre-designed and pre-built models so that you can go, all right, this is a good start on it, and then maybe if you want to make some adjustments, you can adjust and tweak things in there, but they're already ready, already tested, and looking for a new home, and who knows, that home might just be yours. So for all of your future PC gaming needs, head on over to clxgaming.com and see what we can do for you today. Now, that being said, Paul, I mentioned something that is important, and that is, where does this PC go when you're done building it?
Yeah, so once it's done and powered on, it goes to our testing and integration department. And so the first thing we do there is get into the BIOS of the machine. We'll make sure our RAM speed is set correctly. All of our storage devices are showing up. And then after that, we'll load the system. So obviously first is the operating system. And then if you picked any games on our website, that's where we would load that. If you didn't pick any games, we just load the operating system. You're not going to get any bloatware on your machine, a whole bunch of different antivirus programs or anything like that that you don't want. And then once we have everything loaded, we will stress test or burn in the system for 12 hours. And what that does is allow us to fix any faulty component that may have allowed the system to turn on, but when you're in a gaming environment causes it to fail. And that way you get a stable machine at home.
Yeah. And that is why it is definitely it's always a step in the right direction when you choose CLX, because you've got not only that testing, you've got not only the expertise, you've also got lifetime technical support and customer service, plus labor. You have starting out a year for parts replacement. You can get up to 3 years, which is rad. And yeah, there's pretty much, it's kind of an awesome situation. Now, with that being said, Eric and Derek and Max, Max, I would definitely recommend, we'll get to that question here in just on the second half of the show. That'll be a thing that we'll let Zach get to. So, Eric and Derek, are you in the house? Because I know you're watching and excited to see this bad boy be turned on. Are you ready? Gentlemen, do your thing.
Oh.
Ah, so colorful. So much joy. And I do love that shroud. Now, they're going to remember to sign that shroud definitely with a nice silver pen. And it looks awesome. I'm so excited. So let's once again go back over all the things that are inside this amazing PC for Eric, son of Derek. Here we go. This is, of course, a Ryzen. It is a Horus NV5 mid tower with an AMD Ryzen 9 7900X 3D processor mounted on an MSI Mag B650 Tomahawk Wi-Fi ATX motherboard. It has 32 gigs of DDR5, 5600 RAM, and of course, that super awesome RTX 4080 Super. And the operating system is mounted on a 2TB Samsung 980 Pro NVMe M.2, and of course, our processor is being cooled by that CLX Quench 360 closed loop liquid cooler, along with 8 GameDS Aeolus M2 ARGB fans, and all powered by a 1000 watt gigabyte UD1000 GM 80 plus gold power supply, which is amazing. Emily, Eric's screaming in the house. I'm assuming your mom, yes? Well, we're super excited for you to get this, and also excited to see your pictures. And of course, if you have a CLX PC, we actually have a section in our Discord where you can post pictures of your setup so we can see what you did with it, because we always are interested in where it goes, how it looks, and, how it's being used. So this one came in at, I want to actually, you know what, let me just go ahead and send the share link to you. We'll put that in the, actually, can I get somebody to do that from the, because I've got that on a different system. We'll get that information to you in just a second. So as usual, this show happens in 2 parts, and we're going to take a break in just a few. When we come back, we are going to be spending the afternoon with Zach as he continues to build more things, and he's going to answer that very interesting question about the best build for an RP, for a GTA 5 RP machine, which will be interesting to hear all of that. Now, with that said, our show happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 Eastern. We give out codes for giveaways on Tuesdays on the green side, Thursdays on the purple side. You can also find them along with all the latest and greatest things happening with CLX Gaming at YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. You can also sometimes find codes and join up with a community of like-minded PC and gaming enthusiasts over at our Discord. That's discord.gg/CLX Gaming. The other place you can find codes is on my channel, and I'll have a code today, which is going to be awesome, and we'll get to that as soon as this show finishes. I'll probably start a little bit early, though. Now, with that being said, we are about to go on break, so stick around. We've got more coming up in just a few. On behalf of Jason and Kyle in production, Zach and Paul, I'm DJ Blue PDX. We'll be right back.
Bye.
Thank y'all.
What is up, Scooby Gang? I hope everybody is having a fantastic week. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. We've got a pretty sweet build going on. We are going to be slapping down on Asus TUF Z690 Plus Wi-Fi motherboard. We are going to be installing a 14900KS. We have a 2 terabyte NVMe, a 4 terabyte hard drive. We've got 32 gigabits of 6000 megahertz memory modulars. We have an 850 watt power supply. We're playing games on a 4080 Super. If you guys have any questions, any at all, I've got my Twitch up